It's no secret I'm a big fan of Volkswagen and Porsche. That's the kind of cars I tend to gravitate towards. So I'll go to these car shows and I'll pick up these little collectibles. And this particular ad here is one of my favorites. This is an actual magazine ad that was done by Volkswagen in 1960. It says, "Why won't your wife let you buy this wagon?" It's got all this kind of comical little reasons why, comparing it to other vehicles of the time. But probably the most notable is the price. At the time, they were advertising this vehicle for roughly around $2,600. And it's interesting that I was at a car show once, and some of these shows will have swap meets where people will buy and sell old parts. And I came across this gentleman who had a middle seat from one of these old buses. Because what happened is, in the 60s and 70s, during the kind of the hippie movement, people would take this middle seat out of their vehicle and they would sleep in their vans. And so there became kind of a shortage of these middle seats. So people like me that acquired these cars were restoring them. Sometimes the middle seat was missing, they're not remade, so it could be very difficult. And it made the value of those things quite high. So fortunately, the vehicle that I acquired had the middle seat. But I was at a car show one day in Los Angeles, and I saw a gentleman who had a middle seat for sale. It was just springs and a frame. It was just old. And I said, "Hey, how much are you selling that for? I'm curious." And he said $6,000. And I was like, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, they're really rare and they're worth it." Later, I saw at the show a gentleman pulling that very seat in his wagon, and I said, "Hey, how much did you pay for that? I'm curious." And he kind of embarrassedly lowered his head and said that he paid like $5,800 for it. And he said, "Hey, it's possible to find them." So I just find that it's ironic that the price of the vehicle in 1960, that the middle seat today would cost you almost 3 times what the whole car costs. So that just kind of gives you some idea about just how rare these cars are and just how collectible they become. And to me, that's kind of what makes it fun, you know, because when I drive this car, it doesn't matter if I go out to brunch on a Sunday morning or take it to any event. It's a vehicle that really attracts people from all ages, from like young kids to grandma and grandpa, and they just gravitate to the car. And it's something about, everyone has a story growing up with an old Volkswagen, whether it's a Beetle or a bus. It seems like everyone that comes up to me has a story about, well, my uncle had one of these and we did this, and they have this story about this Volkswagen. And I think that's what's really makes the car unique, is that they were so common and everyone has some kind of past with the vehicle at some level.